Laravel has some of the best testing utilities when it comes to frameworks across any kind of language. But one thing I think that we kind of neglect is testing a JavaScript. Sometimes it's a bit of a pain, but it is also a very good way to make sure that your application is robust. Now, Pest v4 has some really good integration with full browser testing, but that isn't necessarily the best way to test all of your JavaScript code. Sometimes unit tests are all you need, rather than spinning up an entire browser just to do something. So, since our application is already using Vite, we're going to be using Vitest for our testing framework. If we come along here, we can see that we can install Vitest. So we're going to come into our application and install it like this. And then for configuring it, somewhere down here, we can either create a custom vitest.config.ts file, or because we already have a Vite config, we can set this up. So we need to add a test key to our Vite config file, which we can add right at the end here. I'm just going to format that like that. And then it's also saying at the very top, if we were using TypeScript, we could add a reference here. But as we're not using TypeScript just yet, we're going to leave that off. So what config are we going to include here? Well, I'm going to set the environment to node to begin with. I'm going to set globals to true. And then on top of that, I have a list of directories and files that I want to exclude from this check as well. So we don't want to test anything that's in the vendor directory or in the node modules directory or in any folder that starts with a dot or any of the config files that we have in our root directory, like our vite.config or our eslint.config. So we're going to exclude all of those. Next up, we come into our package.json. Just like we've set up commands for format and lint, we can probably set up some commands for test. So I'm going to make test run vitest run and test watch to run vitest. So by default, Vitest will watch for any changes in the code and retest them as that happens. And the test Vitest run command is just going to run it one off and then bail out. So by default, we're going to use this. And then if we want to watch for changes, we can run the Vitest watch command. Now that we've got that, let's set up a test. I'm going to come over to our tests directory and set one up here. I've got a JS directory. I think I prefer maybe calling this like JavaScript. And we're going to come over here and we're going to set up a example.test.js file. And with this, what we can do, I'm going to just paste in a very simple test that I've got here, which is pretty familiar with Pest, pretty similar as well. So if we look at these side by side, you'll kind of see where the inspiration for Pest's syntax came from. You can describe a test case and then make an assertion. In this case, we don't even need to describe a test case. We can just make an assertion. We could make it exactly the same as the past one and say, well, let's say we've got the test function here. We're going to import test from Vitest. We can just do that in exactly the same place. Test that's true is true. Then we can expect, there we go, AI can help, expect true to be true. So we come along and we've got exactly the same kind of test. So we've got the same starting point. And if we run npm run test, what we should see is that it's found this test file and it's run it and asserted that true is true. So now with this, obviously it's not doing anything just yet, but we have a way that we can come in and import code from our resources.js directory, import our own custom functions and anything we're doing, and then unit test it and make assertions against it without having to spin up an entire browser. Pretty helpful and very good to have set up early on so that it's not difficult to add to later.